Warning: the episode you are about to listen to most likely contains graphic language, details of violence and murder, and may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. What is up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother.
Except her mother's not here. Just kidding. Hey.
Well, you won't be soon.
It's true. So
not like in a morbid way or anything, but if you remember from last episode, she is going on a Southeast Asian vacation. I'm so excited for you. It's super exciting.
I'm just trying my hardest not to catch any kind of COVID before I have to go away. So
yeah, that's probably good because it's just a fucking hassle when you're traveling.
well, it's a hassle, and imagine you get somewhere and they're like, "Oh, you have to stay quarantined in a hospital for 10 days."
Honestly, that's why right now it's not like, not to fucking shit on your parade or whatever, but it's not a good time to travel because of all this. It's like, especially because every country you go into has like different rules about it.
Oh yeah.
And I actually just found out, which, I mean, not like I have money to go anywhere right now, but I just found out because they lift the vaccine mandates on Friday, which
here in Canada, British Columbia,
in BC, yeah, we're like the last province I think to do that. But I just read that they're not lifting any of the mandates for air travel. Like, you have to be fully vaccinated to travel anywhere.
No, you don't. So you can travel.
See, why do they make it so confusing?
No, it is confusing because I've looked it up a lot. It's all based upon each airline and each arrival destination. So,
but what about coming back into Canada? They can't say I can't come back to my country.
No, you can come back, but it's just so if you're not vaccinated and say you want to go to Mexico.
Yeah.
It's not even worth it because when you get there, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, if you rent an Airbnb on the beach, that would be nice. You can just quarantine there. Yeah, basically anywhere else you would have to quarantine. A lot of places you have to quarantine, but some countries are like, fuck it, lift all that. They have no restrictions.
Because they also have no money, so
yeah, and tourism is a huge part of a lot of places. Like even Vancouver, like we have like had no tourism. It's like,
do you know that this year there's going to be more cruise ships than ever in Vancouver?
That doesn't seem smart. Remember the beginning of the pandemic when everyone was like, oh, everyone on board has COVID. I mean, whatever. Honestly, yeah, COVID's been fucking crazy and it's sad because it did take like a lot of people's lives, but I think now it's just kind of, it's gotten to the point where it's something that I think we're going to have to live with forever because I know right now they're on their they just announced the fourth booster or the third booster.
The fourth booster.
The fourth.
I have 3 already, but they're calling it an endemic now in many places. Like basically the strain is going to change every year. And I mean, you think about there's a flu going around every year that's different from the year before because it mutates. Mm-hmm. And I'm assuming it's going to be like that. Yeah. And I'm not comparing it to the flu. I'm kind of watching what I say because
I compare it to allergies.
I don't want to offend anyone. But I mean, the fact of the matter is that it's going to be around. So
yeah, exactly.
I'm just like, I'm traveling now. I'm not stopping to wait to travel. So if you guys hear this and then I got COVID in Vietnam and died, so
well, don't do that.
Well, you just never know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So we're just living each day as it comes and coming each day as it lives.
There you go, everybody. My mother. But yeah, what else has happened? Because we're 2 weeks, Mom's like, nothing else has happened. We only recorded 2 weeks ago. I was like, oh, Jesus, okay. Obviously, another thing everybody's talking about, the slap.
Oh my God, the slap. I'm so tired of it.
Well, I was saying the other day, like everything that's happened in the last couple of years, I don't know if I'm just taking notice to it more, but everything has been so divisive. Like every single thing is
because everyone hates each other right now.
Yeah, but it's like, what do you think of Corona or COVID? And it's like, you know, some people are like, it doesn't exist, and some people are like don't talk to me if you're not vaccinated, right? So there's that. And then it's like everything else that's happening, like the slap. Just for an example, it's like, okay, either people think like, yeah, will you defend your wife? And then other people are like, what the fuck? Why would you go up and assault somebody in front of the whole world at like a event that is like a classy event.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm a huge Will Smith fan, and that made me not like Will Smith. Like, I just,
Same, buddy. Like I saw the picture of Chris
oh,
Rock
I
in
feel
the
so
background, like when they
sad.
showed the picture of him when I guess he didn't know they were filming him and
He's gonna
he
cry
looked so shaken and like
because it's embarrassing.
super and like he didn't even know like what the fuck, like what to do, like nothing. I don't know.
I
Like
wonder if The Rock was up there presenting that award and he made that same joke because okay, it's another thing too. I read an article from the hairstylist of G.I. Jane and they're like, I don't understand why they were so offended by that. Like this is a fucking badass haircut. And I also watch Red Table Talk regularly and she had one episode because I didn't even know she had alopecia. I knew that she shaved her head because she had this one episode where she said she had all these bald women on the show, like own your, like, just own it, like, yeah, bad bitches, bad bald bitches, basically saying like take your power back. And she said on the show, I have started to lose my hair, but it's not like she has like a patchy alopecia haircut. Like she has like a nice buzz cut. Like, Amber Rose has a bald head. If she were to get the same joke,
yeah, if you can carry off a bald head, like
oh,
I know underneath this hair, if you look at pictures of me before I grew hair at like 3 years old, because I didn't grow any hair for a long
yeah,
time,
welcome to
I look
Caucasian.
like a wavo head, like an egg. My head is the shape of an egg exactly. So I just hope I never have to shave my head or my hair doesn't ever fall
If you
out.
shave your head, I'll shave mine.
Okay, but you have a nice shaped head.
I'm just saying, like, if it ever came down to
That's
you having to
nice.
shave your head, I would shave mine too. And my
Let's
eyebrows.
do it right now. Oh, your
I'm
eyebrow?
just kidding. Okay, that part, no, never mind. Because, like, your eyebrows are, like, a little, like, less
Oh my
thick than mine.
god, eyebrows shaving is
And I'll
terrible.
pluck off all my eyelashes.
Oh my god,
Just
you're
kidding.
getting out of
I'm just
control.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
I'm
But
just
I'll grow
kidding.
my armpit hair and my bald.
Oh!
Okay. But yeah, no, I honestly, there's never, ever, ever an excuse to go up and assault somebody.
Physically,
Honestly, if he were to have yelled, like I remember watching it, Carlos and I were watching it, like, why is it quiet? Like, what? Like, was that script? Like, oh, like probably I'm sure everybody else.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden, when he started yelling, like with his like mouth quivering, like, keep my wife's name out your fucking mouth. It was like, oh my god. It's like, yeah, I don't know. It's just the whole thing. But no, never, ever, ever an excuse to go up and assault anybody ever. Like there is a couple reasons to assault people, but like that was not one of them.
Well, and I think it also speaks to your maturity level because I would probably have thrown down with pretty much anyone for any reason like 20 years ago, maybe, oh, probably a little bit less.
I was like,
But like I would go up and if you're losing your temper
oh
to
yeah.
physically strike out seemed like an appropriate thing to do, but that's such a juvenile way to do anything.
Well, and also you have to think like Will Smith has been made like they've basically made him into a meme. Everyone gets made into a fucking meme, but when that whole thing with August Alsina came out and he's doing his Red Table Talk and it just became like there's that one meme where it's like him and then his face fades into OJ Simpson. Like when have you seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just obviously he just had enough in that moment and had like an emotional. It was a breakdown. I think we witnessed a breakdown live on television.
I believe it was a breakdown, but I think he's subservient to Jada, and that's why he's a cuck.
And that cuck will. That's another hashtag
Yeah.
that's trending. If you guys know what cuckolding is, but no, I mean,
That's just my theory. I didn't get paid by any advertisers of cucks to say it. It's just
no, yeah, I don't know. It's just again, everything in today's time is very just splitting everybody into like this group versus this group. Like, what do you think of this? What do you think of
you
that?
literally can't go on the fucking camping website on Facebook and ask if it's okay to use a propane fire, or everyone is like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You want to use a propane fire? And the other people are like, oh God, please use a propane fire. Like,
Yeah.
it's super divisive. Dog vet group, like all these groups that are usually probably for people that have no life.
Yeah, everybody has no life right now,
Yeah,
though, so
so it's just
everybody's
like
just fighting with each other.
everybody.
So today we are actually going to cover
A weird case.
a case that I mean okay, this is a thing. Right now, everybody is dealing, and we've talked about this multiple times. Everybody is dealing with mental health in some way. I think it's been brought more to the surface, more to the table than ever before. Kiana agrees.
Yes.
Yeah. You tell him, baby. Again, I feel just like a global pandemic will do that, right? I mean, stopping everything, no one's certain of what's going to happen. Those of us that have dealt with mental illness for our whole lives are just, whatever. We're just adapting.
But then I also wonder if everyone was always batshit and we just didn't notice because we're busy doing stuff and now we're just
Yeah.
not.
Well, the person who perpetrated the murder in this case that we're covering today, 1,000 trillion billion percent was dealing with mental illness. So mental illness comes up in this case, like a weird, not phobia. What's the other thing? What's the opposite of a
Obsession?
phobia? An obsession. Yeah, there's just a whole lot of weirdness. Obviously, on Murder with My Mother, we have covered, I mean, psychopathy. We've covered different forms of murder. We've covered lots of stuff. So this one today is just, it's just, I
I
mean,
think
you
it's a
guys will,
little different.
it is different. So you
Yeah.
guys will definitely know once we get into the nitty gritty details of this case that it is kind of fucking weird.
And did you guys know, well, you don't know, but now you know, that I didn't even know about this case until you told me about it.
Yeah, and
Same as last week.
yeah, so I'm about to fucking give you some really weird insight to this case because it's just, I don't know. There's obviously every murder has its own. There's some murders that are like way more weird than other murders,
This is
and
one of them.
this is definitely one of those. So, with that, we will get right into episode 34, and we hope you guys enjoy listening.
I thought it was 33, but
No, it's 34. Pretty sure. Fuck, let me go check. It was November 10th, 2010, in Apple Valley, Ohio, which has such a nice name. You wouldn't even think anything bad could ever happen
I
there.
picture it smelling like apple pectin.
What?
Like just smelling so good.
What's apple pectin?
It's like an appley smell. So
Oh.
good.
Hmm. Well, this place probably does smell like apples, and leaves. So, but anyway, you guys will understand that as I get into it. But the manager at the local Dairy Queen had placed a call to 911 saying that one of her employees, named Tina Herman, who was a 32-year-old single mother, hadn't showed up for her shift that day. And it was really out of character because she had two children to support and she was a great employee. So she had a 13-year-old daughter named Sarah and an 11-year-old son named Cody. So at the time, Tina actually was dealing with having to move out of her current house because her and her boyfriend, whose name was Greg Borders, had kind of a rocky relationship, but she was just basically in the middle of trying to find her own apartment to move out with her
By yourself?
kids, with her kids, right? To
Oh.
to leave her current situation and leave. So a deputy had actually went to the residence for a welfare check, and from the outside of the house, everything seemed okay. Nothing seemed amiss. It was kind of weird because the garage on the right side of the house in the front was ajar, like it was open a little bit. And on one side, like you could tell it was broken, but there was like just enough space for maybe someone to go into the house. But officers didn't see anything crazy, they didn't hear anything, and yeah, so basically it kind of was like, oh, we didn't see anything, but maybe she's gone. So the next day, the boyfriend of a lady named Stephanie Sprang, who was actually a friend of Tina's, called to say that she also was missing. So that kind of made the officers obviously like, okay, both friends are missing. And then they found out that both of the kids hadn't shown up for school. So by this time, obviously, authorities were pretty concerned, but they weren't as concerned as when that same manager actually went to Tina's house. They must have been pretty close.
They must have, because I'm just thinking right now, like, kudos to that lady for calling the cops, because if I didn't show up for work, no one would even do anything. No one even noticed for, like, probably 2 hours, first of all.
Yeah. Well, like I said, she was very, I think would just assume that you
Slept
maybe slept
in
in or
or had a
something.
migraine or whatever, right? Not like call 911.
No, but anyway, they got a second call. Police received a second call from the Dairy Queen manager, and this time it was her saying that she had entered Tina's home and there was blood all over the place.
Oh.
So inside the house, investigators went inside and they found just exactly what she said. There was blood all over the place. And not even just blood, like there were three separate piles of like bleed outs. Like someone had bled
Like
out.
so
Three
much
separate
blood that
people.
no one could have survived it.
Yeah, three separate people. Plus, there was cast off marks all over the place. Like someone had been like obviously they knew it was either someone was definitely murdered there, but it was either blunt force, stabbing, like it was some kind of very traumatic homicide or something had happened. And when they went actually they followed the drag marks that came from each pile of blood and it led into the bathroom. And in the bathroom you could tell in the bathtub that there had been at least 4 inches of blood inside the bathtub at one time. So
Oh,
obviously
a lot of blood.
a lot of blood, but obviously being investigators, they had probably not seen too much stuff like that, but they had enough knowledge to know that it looked and appeared that people had been dismembered in the bathtub.
Oh,
So, also, what had happened is as the police officers were walking around the house, they also saw that there were two separate foot impressions, like shoe impressions. And so, two. So, obviously, there were three people that had obviously been murdered because there were three huge blood piles, but then they saw two separate impressions from two separate shoes. So they knew that, okay, two people walked out of here alive. Three people were clearly murdered. There's four people that are missing. There's Stephanie Sprang, the friend, Tina Herman, the mom, and then Cody and Sarah, her 13-year-old daughter, and her 11-year-old son. So at this point, they obviously are thinking, like, okay, is somebody is this somebody that they know? Did somebody kidnap one of the kids? Are both of the kids kidnapped? Like, what's going
yeah,
on?
what's going on?
So after that, they obviously are looking all around the house. So they determined because they found 3 bags, Kroger bags, which Kroger is a grocery store in the States. We don't have Kroger here. We don't have Kroger here, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well,
Chad
we
Kroger.
don't. Look at this photograph.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just need a
Who knew
Nickelback
he
joke.
secretly opened up a grocery store chain in the States?
Yeah, who knew? So there was 3 bags that detectives found in the kitchen, and inside there was a receipt saying a certain time. So what it had looked like is somebody had basically ambushed. Um, Pretty much Tina and her friend were at the house together. So after speaking with the boyfriend of Stephanie, they learned that, like I said, Tina was looking for her own apartment. So Stephanie actually took the day off to go and help her friend look at places so that her and her kids could move out.
Wonder if they were affordable there.
Probably more affordable than here, but who fucking knows because there's inflation all over the fucking place right now. So what had happened is they had narrowed it down and to a certain time. So then they knew that the kids came home from school at a certain time because they were actually at school that day. They just didn't show up the next day to school. So detectives searched and basically at first obviously like we always talk about they have to rule out the people that are closest to the victims. So right now they are unsure of who the actual 3 victims are, and based on the shoes they know that somebody else left that house. So obviously when you're in the middle of a breakup, that person's going to definitely be the number one suspect. That's just for any
A hundred
case.
percent.
Even if you're not in the middle of a breakup, even if you're in the happiest marriage ever, they need to rule out the partner, the significant other of the person that has been murdered or has been, because right now these people are still missing, but they, based on the blood and the
Someone's
evidence
dead.
and somebody, 3 people presumably have died and then been dismembered because of the bathtub findings, right?
Yeah.
So Police also found a bag from the local Walmart in the garage. So the bag from the Walmart had two tarps and a bunch of other random stuff in the bag, but the receipt in the bag also showed for later on in that evening. So obviously they know that the crimes probably happened earlier. So who made this purchase of this bag? So, what they do, because detectives are super smart, is they go to the local Walmart and they go to the day, obviously, that they believe that the murders had happened, and they go and they look for someone that made the purchase. So, they watch the video cameras and they see a man on the cameras who's very familiar with the Walmart. He walks right to the aisles that he needs, obviously, the tarps, and he bought a huge knife as well. So, it's like, okay, well, also, on his way to the till, he stopped at the dollar rack and he bought a orange and black camo t-shirt. Like, like, like literally, if you watch this guy, he's shopping and he looks super calm, super cool, super collected. So that's the thing, right? Sociopaths, they don't have the same, like, if I had just murdered somebody, which I wouldn't do, but if I had, I would be very like, you could probably tell, right? If somebody that's not a
Yeah, you'd be
psychopath,
feeling nervous and like
well, we have that fight or
guilty
flight,
or
right? We
yeah.
have like that like fight or flight where your adrenaline's pumping, but sociopaths and psychopaths, they don't have that. They don't have that same they don't have that same like emotion that we do. Like it would have to be they have it, but it would be have to be really 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 high. Like really something for them that would be like I said, if you're a murderer and it just was circumstantial, obviously it's going to be different than someone who suffers from either mental illness, psychopathy, something like that. So they tracked down the man that made these purchases, and it was 30-year-old Matthew Hoffman. So when they ran his name, they saw that he had priors in Colorado for burglary and for arson. So now, obviously, they're on the hunt for whoever is remaining with that person. Like they need to find
Yeah, they still got to
him.
figure it out. Like, who does he have?
Yeah. So at this time they were also able to narrow it down that it was Sarah. It was the daughter that he had. So just based on some evidence that they put together. So at this time now they're wondering, okay, was Sarah involved? Because we have heard that before in other cases where a young girl has actually been the perpetrator of the murder of her whole family, which, there are some more famous cases in that,
Which we're gonna cover.
which we definitely will cover. And some actually Canadian cases that are, a Canadian case comes to mind that is horrible, but again, we will cover that one. But they had to narrow it down. Like, is she being held hostage? Is she being held against her will? Has she been taken captive?
Is she
Is she involved?
alive?
Exactly. So basically, time was of the essence to find Sarah. Matthew Hoffman was an out of work tree trimmer who lived less than half a mile from the crime scene. And like I had said previously, his rap sheet included burglary in Colorado and arson. So, with Sarah's safety in question, obviously the investigators rushed to obtain they needed a warrant, but they didn't want to like let on that let him know that he was like a suspect. So, they got something called a no-knock warrant, which pretty much they can just bust your door down and get you.
Oh.
But what happened is the SWAT team burst into Hoffman's home and apprehended him. So they actually put off like flashbangs and smoke grenades and they rushed in and he was just sitting on his couch like la, 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 like he was just sitting
Like,
there.
holy fuck.
But the part about okay, I did say he's a tree trimmer and we will obviously get into some details about Matthew Hoffman, but what the investigators obviously okay, he was I don't
It's hard
know.
to even
It
describe.
is. It is because he was very like almost like what's the word? Catatonic, but he couldn't have been catatonic because we know that sociopaths can't be catatonic because catatonic is an anxiety. That's when you just don't speak. But basically he was just silent. But the thing that the investigators were more weirded out by was the fact that the whole house, it was an older house.
It was over 100 years old.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, we've heard of decor, and I go into some people's houses and I'm like, oh, fuck, it's like 1970 inside here, or or 1980, or oh my God, this
Want to mention
person.
any names?
No, I just, multiple houses. Or even if you look at people's pictures on Facebook, and I don't really do it, but Carlos will be like, oh, fuck, that house is so ugly on the inside. But, some people, people decorate in different ways, right? Everyone to each their own.
Yeah, but
But Matthew Hoffman, he had bags and bags and piles and piles. It depended what room you were in, of leaves. The whole house was covered, the whole floor was not visible, but the only thing you could see were leaves. And I will definitely put a picture of this on the cover art for this
yeah.
episode because it is fucking weird as hell.
He had bags of leaves stapled to the
Oh
walls.
no, bags from the floor to the roof
Yeah.
of like Walmart bags or, grocery store bags of just filled with leaves.
Leaves and leaves and leaves and leaves.
And then piles of just leaves all over the house. So obviously at first there's piles of fucking leaves everywhere. So the police are like going through the leaves, like, if you can hear me, if anyone's in this pile of leaves, because
They thought they were going to find multiple bodies under all those leaves.
well, it was deep enough. There were these leaves. It's like this guy had been collecting leaves for his whole fucking life, like 30 years of leaf collecting.
And I think he'd only lived there for like a couple of
For
years.
not that
Yeah.
long. And the weird thing is, he had previously just, I mean, I'll get into it, but he had a girlfriend. I wonder if she ever came to his house. Like, if I fucking walked into someone's house and they had leaves everywhere, I would turn around. But detectives also found that there was a basement. So obviously, after searching through all these piles of leaves, they couldn't find anything. They didn't find any bodies. They didn't find anybody in the leaves. So they continued to search the house, which there were more leaves. So until they got to the basement, and once they got into the basement, well, you wouldn't have guessed, but they found more leaves, but it was completely pitch black down there. And what they found was Sarah Maynard, so 13-year-old Sarah Maynard, on a bed of leaves,
Ugh.
and she was in a almost like a makeshift diaper, and she was bound by the like wrists and bound at the ankles, and she was just laying in there. And it's really sad because obviously she had been through a lot of trauma. She didn't actually know that her brother had been murdered, her mother had been murdered, or her mother's friend had been murdered, but she asked if she was late for school. She asked the detectives, like, am I late for school? Like,
Oh,
she was obviously very, very, very shaken.
poor baby.
Yeah. So investigators interviewed Sarah. She said that she and Cody came home from school and that she saw blood on the floor. She yelled for her mother, and then obviously the stranger came out of nowhere. So he had a huge knife, and Sarah just said that she ran. She ran and she locked herself in her bedroom. And he broke through the door and he held a knife to her chest, blindfolded her, and tied her hands. She said that he told her if she started screaming that she was going to get murdered, he would kill her. And so Sarah said that he put her in a vehicle, not knowing. She said that she had heard her brother yelling, but she didn't know. And then all of a sudden she was being put into a vehicle and she was being taken to another place. So she said that he had left her there and he had went back. So obviously he had murdered, he brought her and then he went back to clean up the murder or clean up, to do whatever. So Matthew Hoffman, like we had mentioned, he had a previous conviction of arson. So 2 years after he graduated, he moved to Colorado and he burglarized a condominium complex. And then because he went and he touched everything, like I think that he had
Like
I don't know if he was a little bit
OCD.
delayed. No, I
Yeah.
don't know if he was a little bit delayed because his first thought, which okay, maybe smart, maybe not, probably not, was okay, I've touched everything in here after I've stolen. Now I'm just gonna burn this whole complex down.
Yeah, like that's a bit extreme.
Yeah, like maybe just wipe your prints off shit you touched. I mean, I don't know. I've never
Well,
had
and
to do
like
that,
the
but
cops don't usually give two shits about stuff that's stolen.
no. And a lot of people don't even notice unless you take something that's really And he was working at the complex. Like, he worked there.
So he could be like, "Oh, I just touched it when I was working."
Yeah, exactly. He had,
But
but again,
instead,
he went right to arson.
he went to arson, like he poured 2 jerry cans full of
Yeah,
gas.
10, that's 10 gallons
Yeah.
of gas, which is a lot of fucking gas,
Yeah.
which I would love right now if someone would just give to me for free because gas is fucking
Without the
expensive.
flame.
Make sure it's premium. So, what he went to, because obviously that was his go-to, was actually after he disposed of the bodies, he went and he filled up some jerry cans and he returned to the house. But as he was about to go and burn the house down, that's the time when the officers were doing the welfare check. So
Oh,
an
snap.
officer actually saw him there and said, like, hey, man, because actually the thing is, the house was pretty secluded. Like, it wasn't around a lot of other houses, which was actually the reason that Matthew had targeted this house in the first place. So Matthew, when he was interrogated, which I don't know if you watched the interrogation tapes, there's 4 hour interrogation tapes. He doesn't say one fucking thing. He starts to move his hands, and they're like, "Yeah, we don't speak sign language, buddy." Like, he was not speaking. But what they said to him was, "If you tell us where the bodies are, what had happened." In Ohio, they have the death penalty. So they pretty much said to him, like they do a lot of the time, if you tell us the information we want to know, get these bodies back to the families, we will take the death penalty off the table. So again, he was there to burn the house down because that's what he knows. And I mean, it didn't work for him the first time. He obviously didn't learn, but the police officer had actually been there to do the welfare check. So they talked to him. They asked him if he had noticed anything suspicious, and he said no. He was just waiting for his girlfriend, and he used the girlfriend's name. Like, he said, Sarah. I'm
He's
waiting for my girlfriend Sarah. I don't know her last name. That's obviously suspicious, A, because you don't know your girlfriend's
and
last
Sarah's
name.
the 13-year-old's
And
name.
Sarah's the 13-year-old's name.
I
So
think maybe he possibly was a little delayed.
he was 1000%. There's a lot of obviously speculation because people thought that because again, he obviously took Sarah while Sarah was being held captive, she was sexually assaulted. But it was weird because the way he talked about it was almost like he protected her. He took really good care of her. They watched movies together and cuddled and like all this
He
stuff
gave her a
where,
book.
yeah, like just stuff that clearly maybe you should have just left her alone
And
and
not
not
killed her
murdered
whole
her whole
family.
family, right? So he, like I said, there's speculation because people think like, okay, did he do this to kidnap Sarah intentionally? Was this the plan the whole time? Because that is going to be a little
Well, they
suspicious.
can't figure out a motive.
No, there's no motive. So when he was giving his confession, what he said was that he planned this as a robbery. He planned this just to burglarize the home, to do a home invasion, and he picked it because it was far away from places and because the um the garage was open. So he wouldn't have to break in. There was a nice little thing he could roll right in under the garage. He would be in, he would be out. And so Matthew Hoffman liked trees and the wilderness.
Well, and another thing you got to mention too is that he didn't have a lot of money,
No, that's why he
and
was doing a home invasion.
that's why he was doing the home invasion, and he also was doing stuff like eating roadkill.
Well, this is the thing.
He's a whack
Apparently,
dude.
apparently, when he was young, he's always really liked to climb
The
trees.
forest.
He loved the forest. When he was living with his mom, he was most of the time, like, obviously some people take longer to leave their mom's home, but he was like, he lived with his mom, like he had cohabitated with his mom, but he was actually living outside
In the
of the mom's house
forest.
in the forest. So there is something called dendrophilia, which is a sexual attraction or affiliation to trees, which I have never heard, which is why
I
I
have
said,
it.
oh,
Just kidding.
hi, there's a bunch of leaves in your pocket. But no, so he also did stuff like you said. He ate roadkill. He really liked to eat squirrels. He was almost like a
Like a caveman, yeah.
survivalist, but he didn't have to be because he owned this home, but he just brought the outside in or whatever. So again, people were when asked, people said that he was always kind of a weird guy. Like he was always almost like like blank. When you look at someone and it's like there's not much going on there, which I have seen a lot of people's eyes like that, and most of the time they're people that are on or need to be on antipsychotics.
Yeah.
You kind of see that like come a little bit back when they're on their medication, but when they're not on their medication or not properly medicated, it's like, like you can wave in front.
Yeah.
It's very, until you experience it, it's not really something that you
Can
can vision.
explain.
Yeah. Which is why I'm going to give you guys a really good vision of it right now with my hands, but you can't see me because we still haven't made any videos. So pretty much he wrote everything out. He wrote everything out and said, "This is where I have disposed of the bodies." So what Matthew Hoffman did is he put, this was actually the last thing he was holding on to. Like he told everything about what he did, everything about what his intentions were, what he was trying to do, how everything went awry. He pretty much said he watched them leave in the morning at 9 o'clock. They left for school and work, and he went in. And a couple hours later, he was in there for a while. Tina and her friend Stephanie surprised him and came home. And so he wasn't expecting that because he was saying it was just supposed to be a home invasion. There was not supposed to be any murdering, but he felt cornered because obviously if someone finds you in their home, they're going to freak the fuck out. And Tina looked like she could probably like
Hold her own.
yeah, like she probably, if given the chance, if because obviously he stabbed them because he was worried. And again, he looks like the kind of guy that was rationalized, like just stab them. Like it's kind of like the
Yeah.
let's just burn this bitch down. Like it's
Well, he
not.
tried. He tried to hit her with something, and he
Yeah,
thought it would just knock her out, but it didn't work. So
no,
that's when he
that's what I
brought the
mean. Like
knife out. Yeah,
she looked like she was strong. And
but not
so
like GI Jane though.
no, don't call her G.I. Jane. But that was so fucking horrible. I just see Chris Rock's poor sad face. I
Oh.
know. So anyway, um yeah, he panicked. And so as he was dragging the bodies and trying to get rid of that, the kids came home. And so he had already murdered Stephanie, he had already murdered Tina, and
And cut them up.
and cut them up. And obviously, like Sarah had said, when she came in, she just ran, right? He had ambushed them and seen he came in at them with a knife. So she just left. She ran to her room. So he stabbed poor Cody, the 11-year-old boy, and we know that he obviously kidnapped and incapacitated Sarah, took her somewhere else, and then did what he did to the bodies. But like I said, he wouldn't give the location, and it wasn't for the reason that you think. It was because what he had done is he had gone to a tree,
A
surprise,
hollowed out
surprise,
tree.
a hollowed out tree that he loved. He probably went there and just masturbated at that tree. Like, I don't know what his connection directly to
Might have
the
been
tree
his
was.
tree
It
girlfriend.
might have been his tree girlfriend. Have you seen that weird obsession show? And there's one guy that has sex with his car.
I've heard about it, but
One
I
guy that
don't.
has sex with a roller coaster.
Oh,
Like
a
there's like
roller coaster.
a roller coaster.
Oh,
But anyway, he should have been on an episode of My Weird Obsession because this guy, I wonder if he like when you get slivers in your penis,
what
have
do
you
you
tried to
do?
fuck a
What do you
tree?
do with the tree?
Sorry. So he actually had to make a hoist, and because remember he was a tree trimmer, that was his job, which
Oh yeah.
perfect fucking job for this guy. But he got all the black garbage bags with the dismembered body parts and he made like a makeshift hoist and he put all the body parts, all the bags inside this hollowed out tree.
Up top.
Up top, like a huge tree.
Like they wouldn't have been found if he didn't confess where they
No,
were.
no, no, never. And the thing is, the reason he didn't want to tell them where the bodies were is because he didn't want them to destroy the tree.
Cut down the tree.
And he actually made them promise, which, I mean, obviously they're not gonna follow and listen to the promise, but he was more worried about them, like, bringing the tree down or harming the tree than he was about the crimes that he had committed. And he did, in his interview, he does look very, like, it's almost like a scared kid. Like, he looks like he's just, like, he starts crying, he starts all this stuff, but it's like, he's like, I didn't know they were gonna come home, so I just had to kill them, and then I didn't want to kill them, and I didn't want to this, but it's when they talk about the tree part, it's like he starts getting so emotional.
That's really sad.
It's sad because
I'm
it's
just
like
kidding.
clearly mental illness, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he even says, like, I've had thoughts in my, I've always had felt this way. Like, I've always felt this way, but I didn't ever want to tell anybody because once you talk about that stuff, you're labeled like that for the rest of your life. Like even one of his neighbors said that like she had like weird um interactions with him. Like the dog would be barking and barking and barking, and he would just stand there and blankly stare at them. Like just weird stuff.
But he also played with a lot of the
All the
neighbors'
kids
kids in the
in the
trees,
trees. Yeah.
making like tree swings and
Yeah, tree
stuff.
forts and tree
Imagine
swings.
knowing you'd let that guy play with your kids after.
No. After he murdered another kid, his girlfriend who he just broke up with
Oh,
had a kid. But that's the thing, right? We hear about murderers who have never murdered anybody, but then they have all these triggers in their lives, or they have all these like things that push them to break, right? So obviously he was not had a lot of money, he was just gone through this breakup, he was all these things, and that just kind
running
of
behind on time.
yeah, so that just yeah, running behind on time. That's a really good excuse. But he just had enough, I guess, and he broke and he just yeah, ambushed a whole entire family. Hey guys, it's Denika. I know you've heard our commercial of First Sense Dog Dry Shampoo, but now's your chance to get some for yourself and for your furry companion. Use promo code MWMM10 at checkout at www.firstsense.ca for 10% off your first sifter pack. These things are awesome. With the sifter pack, you can try all 3 scents: restorative cedarwood, purifying peppermint, and my personal favorite, Zen lavender. That way, you can say goodbye to those stinky car rides home. I promise you and your fur baby are gonna love this product. Now, back to Murder with My Mother. So Matthew Hoffman ended up pleading guilty and he received life in prison because remember we said they took the death penalty off the table. So he is in prison for the rest of his life. And Sarah Maynard is actually really sad because she went to go live with her biological father and his new wife. And then you saw her doing a lot of interviews. Like she was on Dr. Phil, she was on like Today's Show, she was on a bunch of interviews. But then later in 2013, the dad and his wife were both charged with domestic abuse and domestic assault for abusing Sarah.
What the hell?
And then it came out that he forced her to go on all these shows and do all these interviews for money.
Oh,
I know, like, this girl didn't have it bad enough. But there was a big, because actually on one of the podcasts we were listening to do this research is, sorry, that was a mouthful. One of the podcasts and other things, they couldn't find Sarah Maynard. Like, thank good for her because she had obviously had enough press. But she actually did another interview for Twisted Killers, and she looks really good. She is like older now, and she was just talking about the ordeal, and obviously, I mean, it's very traumatic. You lost two of your family members, one of your family friends. You were sexually assaulted. You were held captive by like the creepiest guy, and
and then your dad turns out to
to be an
be
abuser, and his
yeah.
wife was a see you next Tuesday, and it's just sad for her. So I'm glad that she's doing okay. So yeah, that was the case of Matthew Hoffman. Well, the murder of Cody Maynard and his mom, Tina, and the friend Stephanie, and the subsequent abduction and everything of Sarah. And the weird leaves, and honestly, just even talking about it, it's like you guys need to see. So go Google right now, Matthew Hoffman, like leaf killer, and you'll see because it's super fucking weird. So
Or if you forget, we will put some pictures
pictures,
of it.
yeah, we definitely will. So yeah, that was episode 34. So
And I feel really proud of ourselves because we managed to get out another one in 2 weeks. And
yeah,
so we're going to do another one in 2 weeks.
yes, right before mom takes off to Vietnam, if you ever get there with all the fraudulent shit that is happening and all the weird tricks and scams that you've had to fill out all your canceled flights and all
Yeah,
that
it's
stuff.
been something else. I'm not going to jinx it by talking about it any further.
Okay, well then, shh.
So if you,
Shh.
maybe you should
Shh.
have a guest star.
Maybe not. Maybe we just won't do an episode for a month.
Maybe Brent or Michelle would like to guest star with you.
Maybe I'll just do an episode with Kiana and Kiers, and we'll see how that goes. I'll talk with my 3-month-old and my 10-year-old about murder. I think that's just carrying on the familial tradition. So, really quickly before we go, I obviously love to support local business. And this week, I actually was lucky enough to try a gigantic bag of what I'm about to tell you about. But this company called Freeze Dried Goods Canada, they make this is the rage. Obviously, okay, if something's on TikTok these days, then that shit's popping, right? We already know that. TikTok is the craze. Obviously, we only made that one video and we never ever made another one again. So we're not really on TikTok, but Freeze Dried Goods, you guys can follow them on Instagram. It's FDG_Canada. But if you haven't tried anything freeze dried,
I had the strawberries the other day, and oh my
okay,
gosh.
well, I had the ice cream sandwiches, the Skittles, the fruit roll-ups, the cookies. Okay, all this stuff, I literally had to stop myself from going back into my kitchen and eating the rest of the bag. So they're really good. And what I found is like when they freeze dry stuff, it gets way bigger. So like when I would normally eat a whole bag of Skittles, I only needed like 4 because they're big and were like, I don't know, they're just like such a cool texture. And freeze drying is actually really cool because it's better than what's the other one? Not freeze drying, but dehydrating and stuff. So dehydrating takes a lot of the nutrients out of things, where freeze drying actually it's like
It's
freezing it in
just like
time.
cryotherapy. It just
Yeah,
suspends
it just
it.
like stops time. Like so what they also sell are emergency prepared kits. So like obviously right now all the shit and the weird shit in the world's happening. So what better time for the apocalypse to probably fucking happen or an earthquake or something like that? Because obviously it's coming with all this other shit we're dealing with, the flash floods and the fucking fires and everything. So more than ever right now, we know it's important to be prepared. So with this one, it's like they're making kits. So it's like kits to survive for 30 days, kits to survive for
And you can
two
pretty much
weeks.
freeze dry a cabbage roll, probably.
Oh, I'm sure you could. So yeah, hit them up. It's FDG_Canada on Instagram, freeze dried goods. Tell them Denika and Christie sent you for Murder with My Mother and use a promo code MWMM10. That's our promo code for everywhere. So get some dry shampoo for your dog, get some freeze dried goods, go to Golden Triangle and get a fucking jacket. Maybe not now because it's winter. I mean, it's not winter, but maybe go get a tracksuit. They have super cute everything. And yeah, until next time,
It's been real, y'all.
it's been real. And P.S., the short on time, the other day, I tried to make plans with my mom and she's really busy. So she canceled on me and then her excuse was sometimes I get short on
I get
time.
behind on
I get
time.
behind on time. So I was like, that's the worst excuse probably in the world. So especially to the person that you gave birth to, that you're not even gonna be here for their 30th birthday.
Anyway,
Anyway, this has been Murder with My Mother, the true crime podcast where I talk murder with my mother.
unless she's behind on
Unless she's behind
time.
on time. Bye, guys.
Bye.